My favorite show for the majority of my adolescence was Naruto. For years, I was obsessed with the world of ninja until I became a more cultured anime fan, so I had to start picking apart the show that I loved. In recent times, I have struggled to place exactly how I feel on the series. I can't help but look at some of the bigger issues with the series, but on the other hand, I long for that feeling that I had when I was first watching Naruto. Thinking back to when Naruto was my favorite show, I think the characters drove me to love the series more than anything, with my favorite character being Deidara. So I figured I owed it to my younger self to take a look back at Deidara and see if he is actually a well-written character or if my childhood self gravitated towards him for no real reason. The first aspect of Deidara that I found so interesting when I was younger is his ability and design. One of the things that Naruto is incredible at is character designs, specifically with the Akatsuki. The iconic cloak is the first thing that comes to mind when discussing the Akatsuki, and even though each of the characters are wearing the same cloak, they all have a unique enough design outside of that to easily differentiate them from the other members. Whether it's Pain's striking hair, Hidan's scythe, or Kisame's sword, each character is unique enough to stand out even though they are wearing the same cloaks. Along with their great character designs, characters like Itachi and Pain are considered to be some of the best in the series. And while I think every Akatsuki member has their own charm, I particularly love Kisame and Hidan. In the end, I still cling to my childhood belief that Deidara is one of the best among them. For those of you who might not remember, Deidara is the youngest member of the Akatsuki and a former Hidden Stone ninja. Deidara stole a forbidden jutsu from his village at a young age that granted him the ability to have mouths on his hands, and paired with his Kekkei Genkai, he has the ability to mix chakra into clay objects that he turns into animals and then turns into bombs. His ability fuels his passion for his art. The art of the explosion, with the major focus of his life being the pursuit of his ultimate art. Something that he argues about with his first partner Sasori all the time, about whether true art should be able to last, or if it's an explosion. Because of his unique ability, he is recruited by the Akatsuki to help them achieve their goal, and is forced to join the group after Itachi beats him in a fight. Deidara admits after the battle that the Sharingan is true art, but then dedicates himself to proving that his explosions could actually beat the Sharingan, starting Deidara down the path of tragedy. The tragedy of Deidara is that he is great at something, and he has found something that fulfills him. Granted, that thing is setting off bombs, but nonetheless he has found something that makes him special. Until he simply runs into people who are stronger than him, Itachi and then later Sasuke. Deidara is involved with 3 major fights in Shippuden against Gaara, Kakashi, and Sasuke, with Itachi being more of a side fight in his backstory. Deidara is able to defeat Gaara because of the nuance of his ability. Even Gaara's ultimate shield was subject to failure when Deidara used his clay bombs. However, the fight did leave Deidara wounded, so when he runs into Kakashi, he is unable to fight him at full strength, having the fight basically end in a draw. Then Sasuke is able to defeat him at the cost of his own life because of his Sharingan. Deidara believes in his art so much that he is willing to sacrifice his own life in order to prove that his ability is stronger than the Sharingan. But in the end, Deidara's abilities were no match for the strength of Sasuke. Deidara's life was cut tragically short in pursuit of perfecting his craft. A craft that was destined to fall short to something like the Sharingan. Deidara is like many of us, fully putting his belief in the fact that he can become great, but ends up falling short in the wake of a talent that exceeds his own. However, I don't think his story leaves us with no hope. Yes, he was defeated twice by two great Sharingan users, but that shouldn't take away from the amazing things he was able to accomplish. Deidara is the youngest member of one of the strongest groups that has ever been put together in the history of Naruto's world. And he was able to go toe-to-toe with some of the strongest characters in the entire series, just falling short because of an ability that happened to match up well against his own. I also think there is a very important reading into the art of Deidara. Deidara's form of art is an explosion, but someone like Sasori finds art in the craftsmanship of puppets, in something that lasts. Even though these are both pretty twisted and dark things, it makes you think about how art functions outside of the world of Naruto, and the conversation between low and high art. So much of what is created today blows up quickly and then a week later isn't talked about again. And I think you see that pretty well in the reign of Naruto, and how it blew up, especially in the West, and then came crashing back to Earth, with criticisms of the series running rampant. Art in the age of the internet is far more like an explosion than it is something that you sit with for a long period of time. And traditional wisdom would have you thinking that to create a successful piece of art, it must last. We think of the classics, the things that are raved about by the majority of people for years and years. I think the first experience of a particular piece of art can be just as important, as it is a feeling that comes in a flash, and then you will never be able to capture it, no matter how hard you try. There was a time in my life when Naruto was by far my favorite show, and something that I wouldn't have been able to find any flaws in, because I loved everything about it. As I expanded my horizons in the world of anime, and just got older so I could start thinking more critically, I began to pick apart the series for all the things that should have annoyed me, even if they didn't. Specifically things like pacing and animation. But at some point, I had to come to terms with what the show truly meant to me, and that I will never be able to go back to the days where I was watching it for the first time. This channel certainly wouldn't exist without Naruto, and to be honest, most of my dreams and aspirations wouldn't exist without it either. I might not be able to go back to my younger self and be able to overlook some of the issues with the series, but I am also not going to say that there aren't a countless number of things that I love about Naruto. I have come to terms that my original view on Naruto was far more like an explosion than it was a true feeling. Upon revisiting many of the episodes and chapters, I can see that Naruto is a show filled with deeply empathetic characters, all striving to achieve their own personal dreams, whether it is being Hokage or perfecting your art. Naruto is a show with beautiful character designs and unbelievably imaginative fight scenes. A series that thrust me into the world of anime, and a series that I am greatly indebted to. Even though it is 16 years later, my favorite character in the show is still Deidara, the clay-wielding Akatsuki member who met his death far too young. A character whose drive and passion for his art led to his tragic death, and yet at the same time reveals the importance of giving up on trying to contain the explosions, and instead appreciating when they go off. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. I couldn't resist making a video on Deidara. It's been a long time coming, so I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.